My first video was about a system I built and how it ended up winning a Google Artificial Intelligence pitch. But while making that video, I realized something. If I wanted to keep creating, experimenting, and documenting my ideas, I needed to build a system for creating too. So, for the second video on this channel, I am building my dream creator setup, a powerful Mac Studio and a custom mechanical keyboard that I will build with my own hands. By the end of today, I will either have the perfect setup for this channel or a very expensive collection of keyboard parts. Hey, I am Anand, and if you're new here, you are very early. This is only the second video on this channel. I work in network automation in Singapore, and I spend most of my time thinking about systems, technology, and how complicated processes can be made simpler. That is also the idea behind this channel. I want to document the things I build, the lessons I learn, the experiments that work, and probably a few that do not. My first video was about automating part of my life. This video is about building the workspace where future projects will come to life. Starting a YouTube channel made me look at my workspace differently. Until now, my desk was mainly a place for work. But creating videos requires a different type of workflow. There is footage to organize, audio to clean, color to correct, graphics to build, and hours of editing before a video is ready. My previous setup could still complete many of those tasks, but I wanted to build something that would support larger projects for the next several years. I did not want to upgrade only because a new product existed. I wanted to remove as much friction as possible between having an idea and turning that idea into something real. That is where the Mac Studio comes in. This is my new Mac Studio. I have been planning this upgrade for some time, but opening the box still feels slightly unreal. Apple keeps the packaging simple. There is no complicated presentation. You open the box, remove the cover, and the entire machine is sitting there. What is surprising is how compact it looks. When you consider the amount of performance inside this machine, you might expect something much larger. Instead, it takes up very little space on the desk. This Mac Studio is configured with the M4 Max chip, 64GB of unified memory, and 2TB of solid-state storage. I selected this configuration for video editing, creative applications, large project files, and long-term use. I regularly move between several tools, and I did not want memory or storage to become an immediate limitation. But specifications alone are not the reason I bought it. A powerful machine is useful only when it improves the actual process of creating. For me, that means smoother editing, faster previews, shorter export times, and the freedom to experiment without constantly thinking about system performance. This was also a serious investment. I did not decide to buy a high configuration computer overnight. I thought about the videos I want to make now and the projects I hope to create in the future. Because this channel is new, I do not know exactly where it will lead, but I know that I want to take it seriously. This machine represents that commitment. It is not a promise that every video will be perfect. It is a promise that I am creating an environment where I can continue learning and improving. There is only one problem. After placing the Mac Studio on the desk, the setup was powerful, but it did not feel personal yet. To fix that, I went to a custom mechanical keyboard workshop. I could have purchased a finished keyboard and completed the setup immediately, but I spent so much of my professional life working with systems that already exist. For this part of the setup, I wanted to slow down and build something myself. Before the workshop, I understood the basic idea. Choose a keyboard, choose some switches, add the keycaps, start typing. Simple, at least in theory. When I arrived and saw all the available components, I realized there were far more decisions than I expected. The first decision was the keyboard layout. Full-sized keyboards provide almost every key, but they also occupy more space. Smaller keyboards look clean and compact, but some remove keys that I regularly use. I eventually selected a 75% layout. It gives me the important function and navigation keys while leaving enough open space on the desk. That balance matters to me because this keyboard will not exist only for photographs. I will use it for writing, editing, shortcuts, and everyday work. The design needed to look good. Next came the switches. This was probably the most confusing part of the entire process. Every switch had a different weight, feeling, and sound. Some felt light and smooth, some created a noticeable bump when pressed. Others required more force and produced a much sharper sound, and a few sounded powerful. After testing several options, I selected purple switches. I liked them because they felt alive. They produced a satisfying mechanical sound, but they also seemed comfortable enough for longer working and editing sessions. The final visual decision was the keycap set. I wanted the keyboard to match the Studio without disappearing into it completely. The Mac Studio has a very clean and minimal design. The keyboard gave me an opportunity to add more personality. After comparing several options, I selected the canvas keycap set. At this point, I could finally imagine how the finished keyboard would look. Now I only had to assemble it, without breaking anything. The build began with preparing and checking the keyboard base. Before installing all the components, we needed to make sure the board and its connections were working correctly. This part may not look especially exciting, but it is important. You do not want to install every switch and keycap and then discover that something underneath was not connected properly. The workshop instructor guided us through the process and explained what we needed to check. Once the initial test was complete, it was time to begin installing the switches. Installing a switch looks easy when someone experienced does it. You align the pins, place the switch over the socket, and press it into position. Simple. But when you are doing it for the first time, every small amount of resistance makes you wonder whether you are installing the switch or damaging the entire keyboard. I started slowly and checked the alignment before pressing each switch down. After the first few, I became more comfortable. Line it up, press it down, listen for the click, then move to the next one. This was the stage where I started to understand why people enjoy building custom keyboards. The work is repetitive, but it is also strangely relaxing. With every switch, the empty board becomes a little more complete. You are not simply purchasing a finished object. You are making a series of small choices that influence how it looks, feels, and sounds. The process also forces you to pay attention. A bent pin or a badly aligned switch can prevent a key from working correctly, so I tried not to rush. For someone who normally thinks about making systems faster and more efficient, it was refreshing to build something slowly. Once all the switches were installed, it was time for the keycaps. This is where the collection of components finally begins to look like a real keyboard. I started with the larger keys and then worked through the rest of the layout. The process itself was straightforward. Finding the correct location for every key, however, took slightly longer than expected. I checked the reference image more times than I would like to admit. And of course, there was one keycap that appeared to vanish exactly when I needed it. It was sitting directly in front of me. Eventually, the final key was installed. The keyboard was complete. But there was still one important question. How did it sound? This is the first proper sound test. The finished keyboard sounded deeper and more controlled than I expected. It still had the mechanical character I wanted, but it was not so loud that I would avoid using it during long sessions. More importantly, it felt different knowing that I had selected the components and assembled every part. It may not be the rarest keyboard in the world, it may not be the most expensive, but this one is mine. And now it was time to take it home and complete the studio. Back at home, I cleared the desk and started assembling the complete workspace. The Mac Studio became the center of the setup. I connected it to my monitor, storage, audio equipment, and the other tools I use. Then I placed the custom keyboard in front of it. I also started organizing the cables, because even the most powerful computer in the world cannot save a desk when every cable is fighting for attention. The goal was not to make the studio look like nobody uses it. The goal was to create a clean, practical environment where I would genuinely want to sit down and work. Every major part of the setup now has a clear purpose. The monitor provides enough space for editing and organizing projects. The Mac Studio handles the demanding processing. The storage keeps active projects accessible, and the keyboard adds the personal element that the setup was missing. This is not only a collection of expensive equipment, it is a system. Each component supports a different part of the creative process, and when those parts work together properly, the technology becomes less noticeable and the idea becomes the focus. And there is something satisfying about the fact that the first project created on this setup is the video you are watching right now. The footage of the Mac Studio was edited on the Mac Studio. The keyboard I built during this video was used to finish this video. Since this is only my second video, I am still learning how to do all of this. So let me know in the comments which part of the setup you liked the most. If you enjoyed this project, subscribe and join me early in this journey. Thank you for watching. I am Anand and I will see you in the next one.